Shalom, everyone. Today is Yom Hazikaron, the day that we remember the soldiers and the victims of terrorist attacks in Israel. So the specifics halacha will be the second part of the class, but first I just wanted to bring the introduction to the whole chapter, and then we'll go to there, and then tomorrow we'll continue with the Yom Ha'atzmaut. So, when the State of Israel was established on the 5th of Iyar 5708, 1948, the Jewish people as a whole were privileged to fulfill the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, settling in the land of Israel. Even before the declaration of statehood, every Jew who lived in the land fulfilled this mitzvah. The sages even said a person should always dwell in Eretz Yisrael, even in a city inhabited mostly by heathens, and he should not dwell outside the land, even in a city inhabited mostly by Jews. For anyone who dwells in Eretz Yisrael is like one who has a God, and anyone who dwells outside the land is like, God forbid, one who has no God. And that's in Ketubot. And the source is a beautiful verse from the book of Samuel, where it says that the Gemara is surprised by this statement and says it's as if he's Oved Avodah Zarah, not that God isn't his God anymore. And David Omer, and what David himself said, Ki Gilshuni Hayom Yistapech B'Nachalat Hashem, they threw me out, they kicked me out um, from being part of the inheritance, the land of Israel of Hashem, saying, "Go worship other idols." And so, even though technically, I mean, this is a very serious accusation, and so I have two reservations. But even in Daf Yomi this morning, we learned about the verse "V'agita bo eman v'layla," about learning day and night. That verse is not in the Torah. It's not one of the mitzvot in the five books of Moses. It's in the book of Joshua as a blessing, but the rabbis still understood it as if it's a mitzvah. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up is because when David went away from Nachalat Hashem, from Eretz Yisrael, he went first to Moab, but he didn't stay there for a while. But he went afterwards to Achish, in the king of Gat, in the near the Gaza Strip. So this sort of says that even the Gaza Strip is not considered Eretz Yisrael. That is very strange because we fulfilled that mitzvah for more than 30 years that we lived there, and so it's very interesting comparison. And so the Gemara says, "V'chimi amar David lech avod Elohim achrim," anybody who told him to go worship other idols, but to say that anybody who lives in Chutz La'aretz, it's as if they worship other idols. So back to the halacha. Nonetheless, the mitzvah is mainly incumbent upon Klal Yisrael, the entire Jewish people, to take control of the land. The mitzvah to dwell in the land individually, which applies to every individual Jew, is an offshoot of the general mitzvah that is incumbent upon Klal Yisrael as a whole. So he goes further to prove this from the Ramban. This is the meaning of the verse: "You shall possess the land and dwell in it. For to you have I given the land to possess." That's in Parshat Mas'ei. You shall possess denotes conquest and sovereignty, while you shall dwell implies settling the land so that it not remain desolate. And also, not only desolate, there's another interesting halacha in the Rambam, which is that you're not allowed to sell your house to a non-Jew in Eretz Yisrael. You're allowed to sell your house to a non-Jew anywhere else, but in Eretz Yisrael, you are not allowed to sell to a non-Jew. Maybe it's only an idol worshiper, but a lot of people understand this literally, that it's forbidden to any goy, even if they're not idol worshippers. Accordingly, the Ramban defines the mitzvah as follows: we were commanded to take possession of the land that God, may He be blessed, gave to our forefathers Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and we must not leave it in the hands of any other nation or let it remain desolate. So that's a historical background. And so this mitzvah is incumbent upon the Jewish people in every generation. However, for a long time, We lacked the means by which to fulfill it. We were forced to neglect it. We were kicked out because we did not have an army or weapons with which to conquer and settle the land. A few generations ago, God showed kindness to his nation, and a spirit of nationalism began to stir. The historians tried to say that it's just like any other country or people that had that nationalism, but it is so different because first the Jewish people in Eastern Europe sat Shiva when their children um, went to settle the land. They thought, and also to other places, but they considered it completely against Hashem's will, and so causing Jews to go forth and gather in the land. That's how we did uh, end up here. They planted trees, developed the country's economy, established an organized defense force, and struggled against the foreign power that controlled the land, so that when the British mandate expired, the Jews in Israel were able to declare the establishment of Midat Yisrael uh, even a few hours before the mandate ended. According to the international law, it ended at midnight between the 14th and the 15th of May of 1948, but Ben Gurion wanted to declare the state before Shabbat. It was a Friday afternoon. I believe it was around 4 o'clock. And so that's how it was declared. On that day, the Jewish people began fulfilling the mitzvah of Yeshiva Eretz as a people. Granted, we are not yet in control of the entire land, and we are partially dependent on the nations of the world, but we are actually fulfilling once again the mitzvah of Yeshiva Eretz as a people. We find in Halacha as well the Jewish sovereignty over the land is a significant factor, for the laws of mourning over Eretz Yisrael's destruction depend on sovereignty. Our sages describe that one who sees the cities of Judea in ruins should say, "Your holy cities have become a wilderness," which is a verse from Yeshayahu, and tear their garments. The poskim explain that the definition of in ruins depends on who is in control. If Gentiles rule the land, its cities are considered ruined, even if most of the inhabitants are Jewish, and one must tear their garment upon seeing them. But if the Jews are in control, the cities are not considered ruined, even if Gentiles constitute the majority, and no tearing is required. So if you go to Kafr Qasim, which, as far as I know, doesn't have any Jews, because it is part of the country of Israel, the state of Israel, we are not obligated to tear. And also, if you do tear it, you're transgressing the prohibition of Baal Tashrit. In addition, Chazal lavished praise upon the mitzvah of Yishuv Aretz, going so far as to say that it is equal to all of the mitzvot of the Torah. And by the way, there's only 2 mitzvot that you can fulfill with your whole body. That is the settling the land of Israel and sitting in a sukkah on during Sukkot. So Yom Hazikaron, the Memorial Day, this is also a very interesting halacha. From a halachic standpoint, there is no need to institute a general Memorial Day for the holy soldiers who were killed in battle. Rather, one should do what the Jewish people do for anyone who has passed away. On the anniversary of their death in the Yortzeit, a memorial prayer is said, and the deceased son or relatives say Kaddish, study Torah, and give charity to elevate their loved one's soul. Those who are more meticulous hold a memorial service and organize Torah lectures to elevate the deceased soul. We have fought many wars throughout our long history, often losing more soldiers in one war than Tzahal has lost in all of its battles put together. Nevertheless, we do not find that our sages ever instituted a memorial day for those killed in battle. When we won, we celebrated, and when we lost, we mourned individually. The only battle for which the sages instituted public mourning in the form of slichot, prayers, and fast days is over the destruction of the Jerusalem and the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, which was a spiritual and national catastrophe for the Jewish people. Indeed, the Churban is the source of all the troubles, evil decrees, and bloodshed that our nation has suffered throughout the exile. Even the fast of Gedaliah was instituted in commemoration of the Churban, not because Gedaliah was such a great tzaddik, that all of Israel needs to mourn his death. Rather, his assassination extinguished the last ember of hope for the Jews who remained in the land after the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem. Moreover, just as few years before the state of Israel was born, 6 million Jews were murdered in a dreadfully cruel manner. They are our brothers no less than the Israeli soldiers who fell in battle, and they are more than 300 times the number of soldiers who have died in all of Israel's wars. There's approximately 22,000 soldiers. How then can we establish a day of mourning for the soldiers on the same scale as for the 6 million? And the answer is rather, if there is any allowance for a Memorial Day, it is on the condition that we dedicate the day to educating the public about the essence and purpose of the Jewish nation and about the value of self-sacrifice for Klal Yisrael. So basically, the rabbis instituted Yom Hazikaron and special prayers for everybody as a whole, because we are basically saying what I think Natan Alterman said, which was that the state of Israel was given to us on a silver platter, but he meant it, as far as I know, cynically, because it was a lot of bloodshed, and so that is why we go immediately from the sadness of this day, the solemnness, to the celebration of Yom Ha'atzmaut this evening. And we'll stop here, and tomorrow we'll talk about the special prayers for Yom Ha'atzmaut.